There's a great deal of work in sociology and urban planning around the importance of spaces being overlooked. Because when people feel that they are being observed, particularly by people who have some kind of authority or status or trust, they will tend to behave better, or they will at least resist the desire to behave badly. And I think that the problem with the internet, and this may sound like a terrible old reactionary thing to say, is that it isn't overlooked. So the internet is a whole set of spaces where there isn't a kind of sense that there is somebody looking into this space that you would like to stay on the right side of. And let me make this more concrete. There's a major study that was undertaken by Leon Feinstein of the impact of youth provision on young people. And he looked at the impact of three different ways of being. One was organised youth activity, being in orchestra or scouts and playing football. Secondly, disorganised youth activity, just hanging around the youth club. And thirdly, not any activity, just being at home watching TV or whatever. And he looked at the impact on life chances, and what he found was that the best thing, by a mile, was organised youth activity. That was best for your life chances. The second best thing is being on your own, and the worst thing is disorganised youth activities, because just putting young people together with no kind of sense of leadership or structure, well, by a kind of fairly natural process amongst young people, eventually people say, well, let's go and do something, deviant, and people go, well, fine, why don't we? So without wanting to sound completely kind of fuddy-duddy and reactionary, my worry about the internet is that it's full of unsupervised, unstructured, unoverlooked spaces in which the natural ways in which young people work together will lead to the possibility of kinds of behaviours and cultures and attitudes. And I look at the way in which people communicate on MSN, or you look at the way in which Facebook and other things have been used for really kind of very unpleasant forms of gang activity, and you can see some aspects of that. The conclusion I draw from that is the thing we need to be thinking about really creatively is how can we create forms of oversight, intervention, which fit the internet. It's not going to be kind of parental checks and all that kind of stuff, but we kind of need a group of people who have benign intentions, who are kind of roaming around in this space, finding opportunities to channel people into kind of more constructive forms of engagement and dialogue. It's a kind of new post-paternalistic paternalism, but I think the net needs that. What will be in the sense that if there's a problem, then sooner or later we'll find some kind of solution to it. The question is, can you accelerate that solution? And I would like to see respected organisations that young people kind of understand and like. Channel 4 is a good example of that. Thinking about how not only can they make their content more interactive, but how they can get into this kind of unregulated space of youth discourse and find ways of building, well, ladders and doors. Ladders so that people involved in a particular kind of engagement or content production can take the next step, can be slightly more ambitious, can go to the next place. And doors in the sense that connects conversations taking place between particular groups and encourages them to have discourse with other groups, whether it's one gang to another gang or one minority to another group or whatever it might be. You need people who are constantly saying, how can we, as it were, encourage people to go a bit further and encourage people to break out of their own little world. Now, I don't know exactly what the model is. I don't know how you'd measure its success. There are all sorts of issues that would be raised by it, but I think somewhere somebody needs to attend to this. It's the equivalent of, local authorities in the past have employed youth workers, and not always successfully, who just walk around, and when they see a group of kids kind of doing, hanging around, they will intervene, because they'll know that if that group of just hangs around and keeps hanging around, sooner or later, probably mischief is going to occur. We don't have the online equivalent of that.